Hey everybody, CoKnowPro here. Got some baseboard replacement going on here. So what we have is some typical damage to the corners of these baseboards, and we're going to be removing them and replacing them with some new baseboards. It's going to be great. So what we do basically is there's existing seams that I take the razor blade and I slice. I slice a razor blade along the top edge, and I slice that along all the top edge and then along any side edges where it's touching any other material. Basically here it's butted up against the casing. Giving that a slice, you try to slice it all the way through. Then you take a chisel and you go ahead and chisel that in. You don't want to chisel too hard or pry too hard because you can damage the baseboard, break the lath and plaster, whatever substrate you're working with. So what we have here is that piece. We're just going to pry it out. Like I say, go slowly, do a section at a time. You don't want to go too much. You can damage the drywall and plaster, and we don't want to do that. So if you're using the hammer like I'm doing here, you can turn the hammer from right to left, and that'll help pull the baseboard off. Instead of, if you just, pry it up, you can put a hole into the wall, and that's going to cause you more work. We don't want that. So what we got here is there's an existing joint there that's a butt joint. I typically don't do butt joints. I do a 45 seam, but that's an existing butt joint that I'm going to butt new baseboard up to. Now I'm just cleaning up the walls, any nails left behind once I remove the baseboard, just giving it a clean up, because we're going to install a new baseboard to that existing wall. I want to make sure there's nothing left behind. So I take my measurement, I have my baseboard, make sure your baseboard matches the detail to the existing baseboard. Go ahead and butt it up to the existing baseboard there. And then I'm gonna, basically you don't even need a measuring tape. You just take your pencil, make sure it's tight against the other baseboard, and give it a line, give it a scribe line. It's gonna be a 45-degree cut there. Now where I put my line, what I like to do is make a cut about a 1/4 inch stronger than my line. So here we are with the 45-degree cut we're gonna put on this baseboard that I just marked. So this is a compound miter. We're gonna give it a cut here with this compound miter chop saw. And be very careful, operate safety when you're dealing with these tools because they don't give back if they take away, that's for sure. So watch where you place your hands. Now this little piece of baseboard actually is the beginning of my other side of baseboard that I'm going to replace on the other side of the wall. And what it is, it's going to be a butt joint against the casing with the 45, inner 45 cut to receive the other piece of baseboard, which you'll see me do here in a minute. So I'm butting that up against there, making sure that everything lines up. It looks pretty good. Here's that piece with the 45-degree cut that I'm going to install to receive my next piece with the 45-degree cut. Placing my piece, see here it is. I brought another piece with the 45-degree cut on it. And I brought it, I don't even measure. I just bring it out, longer than what the wall is. And then I just mark it. I mark it a little stronger than what I think it's going to be, and I make my cut and I dry fit it. So here, let's say that's going to be 6 inches to the joint, to the casing there, and then it's going to be 6 inches to my outer joint here. I measure that, I mark it, but when I cut it, I'm going to cut it about a 1/4 inch strong. Then I'll bring it back and dry fit it. So here I am cutting it with the chop saw. I'm going to do it about a 1/4 inch strong on each cut, and then I'll take it back and essentially just put it together like a puzzle without any nails or glue. And hold it up to where it's going to go, place it basically, dry fit it where it's going to go, and we'll know whether I need to trim it just a little bit or not. It's better to do that because you can always cut more off. You can't grow more onto the branch, onto the baseboard right there. So here we are. Be careful where you place your fingers. Always be careful when using these saws. You see here, I keep my hand clear of the saw. Make sure you don't keep your fingers up. You don't keep them up. You keep them tucked under. Everything has to be safety. Always watch out when you're making these cuts. So here we are. My 45 seams. Got to make sure they're lined up. Make sure my outer edge lines up. My inner little return piece of baseboard with a butt joint with the 45 lines up. It all looks good. Just have to give it a little bit of an adjustment here. Take off barely a blade, which is about an 1/8 inch trim. Make sure that seam looks good. Then we're going to take about an 1/8 inch blade off this outside 45 cut, which they are, miter cuts because that's a miter joint there. So here we are. This is our back 45, that little return. Going to give that butt joint a little cut. And then here's our outer 45. Going to give that a little trim. and then it should fit just perfect. And that's what we want. When you're doing finished work like that, you need everything to line up real nice and perfect, because that, that's the quality of your work. So here we are, we're placing it, dry fitting everything, looks great, making sure our 45-degree seam there is basically seamless. What we have here is a finished nail gun. It's a brad nailer, and we're shooting 16 gauge, 1 1/4 inch nails. And the reason we have to be careful with what size nails we use, because we don't want to use big nails, that are 2.5 inches long. It'll go through the baseboard, through the drywall, and then maybe into some electrical or plumbing. So it's always better to make sure that you use a smaller size nail, a thick gauge, which is 16, but a smaller nail, so it only goes through the baseboard and through the one layer of drywall, and that's all you need. So here we are, finishing it off. I like to nail it below the detail. All right, guys, there she is. Everything looks good. Hope everybody likes it. Baseboard's done. After you finish with installing the baseboards, you can take some painter's caulking and put a bead along the top and along all the joints, and you can fill all the holes in. And once that dries, you can give a nice coat of paint, and you should have some beautiful baseboards. Hope everybody likes the videos. Hope everybody enjoys it. And if there's any comments, please leave them below, and please subscribe and give us a like. Thanks, everybody. CoKnowPro.